This is Daryl with Cisco Hands-On Training. I'm going to try to knock out a quick episode on Etherchannel and the port aggregation protocol. Again, the website is ciscohandsonttraining.com, diagram on the website, and let's get into it quickly. The diagram for today is a little bit different. I want to talk about Etherchannels, and so I've created a second link between my two 2960 switches. So fast Ethernet 0/5 on switch 1 is connected to fast Ethernet 0/5 on switch 2. And let's look at how that looks. So fast Ethernet 0/5 on both switches has the default configuration, show int trunk. I did not negotiate a trunk, and the reason is because the default dynamic trunk protocol preference is auto on both ends, and if you have auto talk to auto, it does not dynamically create a trunk. If I show spanning tree on VLAN 1, you can see that fast Ethernet 0/5 is forwarding on switch 1, and if we look at switch 2, we'll have one forwarding port and one blocking port. And then on VLAN 2, fast Ethernet 0/5 is not involved in spanning tree because the default configuration for the port is that it is an access port on VLAN 1. So fast Ethernet 0/5 does not have any instance on VLAN 2. Now, one thing that's interesting about the cable I hooked up is that it's a straight-through cable. And normally, well, in the old days when you connected, if you connected a switch to a host, you'd use a straight-through cable. But if you wanted to connect a switch to a switch, you'd have to use a crossover cable. And the pairs in Ethernet, I think it's pins 1 and 2 is one pair, and 3 and 6 is the other pair. Don't quote me on that. It's been a while. And the pairs would reverse with each other to have a 100 megabit crossover cable. Gig crossover cables are more complex because gig uses all four pairs. But the reality is I've never seen a gig crossover cable, and the reason for that is because newer switches have a feature called auto MDIX, which means that they automatically detect when they need to reverse the pairs to connect. So I just connected a straight through cable from switch to switch between my 2960s, and it worked. Now on an older 2924 that would not have worked. I would have needed to use a crossover. I would have needed to use a crossover cable. So that's cool. And there's a interface configuration command, conf t int fast 0/5 auto MDIX auto. So I configure MDIX auto, show run int fast 0/5, and you can see that the configuration did not change, which means that MDIX auto is the default configuration. If I go in and int fast 0/5 no MDIX auto, show int fast 0/5, I'm still up. And presumably I'm up because the MDIX auto is still enabled on the other side. If I turned off MDIX auto on both sides, let's see if I can tell that. I can tell that over there, but I can't enable because I didn't set an enable password. Conf t enable secret Cisco. And now, that'll let me log in. Hold on for a second. Here I am on switch 2. Conf t enable secret Cisco. I advise you not to use Cisco in a production network as your password because that's not very secure, but in a lab it's nice to use something that memorable, that you always use the same thing every time, so that way you don't need to do password recovery. And then int fast 0/5 no MDIX auto, show int fast 0/5, and you can see now my link went down, and that's because neither switch is trying to dynamically reverse the pairs to make the link work. So it would actually require a crossover cable. Okay, so that's the mdix auto command, and it's pretty useful. Conf t int fast0/5 mdix auto. Okay, so I have two links between these switches, and let's say I want to, I have 100 megabits, I'm sorry, each one is 100 megabits of bandwidth, and if I want to ether channel them, why would I want to ether channel them? Well, what is an ether channel? An ether channel is two physical links between the same two switches, and instead of having one be forwarding and one be blocking, and in fact, let's look at that. Show spanning tree VLAN 1. And you can see I have 200 megabits of bandwidth between the two switches. However, fast Ethernet 0/5 is blocking on VLAN 1, so I'm only using 100 megabits. So one way to fix that is to create an ether channel. The ether channel will have an aggregate bandwidth of 200 megabits, and in addition, it will fail over very quickly. So let's look at how to create an ether channel between those two ports. So conf t int fast0/1 channel group 1 mode, and here I've got some choices for mode, and these choices are the port aggregation protocol or the link, I think it's link aggregation control protocol. Port aggregation protocol is a Cisco proprietary protocol which previously existed, and the link aggregation control protocol is the new vendor independent. So looking at port aggregation protocol, our modes are desirable and auto, and we can go on, which means that we just enable the ether channel and don't even talk to the other side. And then the link aggregation control protocol has active, which active and passive. So active says, hey, I'm going to start talking link aggregation control protocol, and passive says, I'm not going to talk of it, but if somebody else talks it, I will answer. So let's try channel group 1 mode desirable. So I've done two things here. I made fast Ethernet 0/1, I put it in channel group 1, and I set the mode to be desirable, which means that it wants to become an ether channel. But the line protocol went down and then came back up as a result of that. Exit show int channel, show int port channel, show int port channel 1. Port channel 1 is down, show spanning tree, and in VLAN 1, fast Ethernet 0/1 is still up. So what's going on here? Well, I made this port a member of, or I made this port, I configured it that it wants to become a ether channel, but every ether channel requires two ports. Let's go to the other port. Conf t int fast0/5 channel dash group 1. I can have up to 6 port channels on this particular Cisco switch. You name each one, so channel group 1 mode, and I'll also go desirable. Okay, so now the ether channel, it wants to try to create it as an ether channel between the two boxes, but fast Ethernet 0/1 is configured as a trunk, and fast Ethernet 0/5 is an access port. When you create an ether channel, in order for it to work, both ports in the ether channel have to have the same configuration. Show run int fast 0/1, show run int fast 0/5. So you can see the difference is switch port mode dynamic desirable. show run int po1. Port channel 1 has no config on it yet. Let's try conf t int port channel 1. And then what I want to do here is I want to actually try making the Etherchannel a trunk. So instead of each individual port being an 802.1q trunk, we're going to run an 802.1q trunk over the Etherchannel. And let's see what happens. Show run int fast 0/5. Note, I did not configure switch port mode dynamic desirable on the fast Ethernet port. I configured it on the port channel. Fast Ethernet 0/5 and Fast Ethernet 0/1 were members of the port channel, but they had inconsistent configurations. By configuring the port channel, it automatically configures both members of the port channel with that configuration command, if that configuration command is of a type that it makes sense. So show int port channel 1. Port channel 1 is down, line protocol is down, not connected. Why am I down? Well, let's go back and see if the logs say anything. Here are my logs. I don't have any interesting logs. Show spanning tree. Show spanning tree. Fast Ethernet 0/1 is still. Fast Ethernet 0/1 is still an access port, or still a trunk by itself. Fast Ethernet 0/5 is a trunk by itself, but they're not Etherchanneled. Why are they not Etherchanneled? Well, the reason they're not Etherchanneled is because you need to Etherchannel both sides. So on switch 2, we've configured Fast Ethernet 0/1 and Fast Ethernet 0/5 as Etherchannels. We need to do the same thing on switch 1. So let's try to do it remotely. 10.1.1.2. So now I can log in remotely. Now this is a little dangerous here. I'm going through the network to configure the Etherchannel that I'm going through, so I may cut myself off here. The good news is my console is nice and ready. So conf show run int fast 0/1, show run int fast 0/5, conf t int fast 0/5, mdix auto, just go back to the default configuration there, and then so Fast Ethernet 0/2, do show run int fast 0/2. Now here's the do command, which is interesting. Normally you have to be in enable mode, not in configuration mode, to do a show run. But if I type do in front of, when I'm in config T mode, I can still type do and then run any enable command, and it'll just run and leave me in config T mode. Okay. So int fast 0/2, channel group 2 mode desirable. And so now that I made it channel group 2 mode desirable, that link went down and will come back up, and then spanning tree will run. So I'm having trouble actually executing these commands. And spanning tree is going to take 30 seconds to reconverge. So I'm going to move my console because I don't want to waste too much time here. Here I am on switch 1. Conf t int fast 0/5, channel group 2 mode desirable. And then show run int fast 0/2, show run int fast 0/5, and then my configs for those two ports are not consistent, and I did not get a log message on that. Show int port channel 2. Show run int PO2. Interesting. Interface port channel 2 has switch port mode dynamic desirable. I do not recall actually configuring that, but in any event, show int trunk. So now on the int trunk, you can see that my trunk is no longer running over port channel 2. I'm sorry, my trunk is no longer running over fast Ethernet 0/2. It's running over port channel 2. And you notice the other thing I did, the port channels on the two switches are different. On switch 1, I used port channel 2, and on switch 2, I used port channel 1. The port channel number is local to the device. All the two devices care about is that you have the same ports channeled to each other, and the port aggregation protocol tries to keep you from messing that up. So you could also configure an ether channel with mode on, just not talking a negotiation protocol. I do not recommend that. I recommend you always use a negotiation protocol, either port aggregation protocol or link aggregation control protocol, because that will help avoid misunderstandings. If you had two access ports on one side and you had an ether channel on the other side, then that could trigger some spanning tree loops and stuff. So that's not good. Okay, so I got a port channel up. Let's try out some. Actually, let's ping 10.1.1.3, and it's pinging fine. Ping 10.1.1.3. I'm sorry, ping IP 10. This is what's called an extended ping. I type ping, and I do not say the IP address, and it gives me a bunch of choices. So 10.1.1.3, repeat count. Let's do 10,000. Datagram size 1400. Timeout in seconds 1. Extended commands no. Sweep range of sizes no. And then while it's running, I'm going to unplug port. I'm going to unplug port 2 real quick. There, it's running. I unplugged port 2. I plugged port 2 back in. Now I'll unplug port 5. See, it recognized that it went down and came back up. I'll unplug port 5. Oh, and I had a little glitch there, but it failed over. You see how quickly that failed over? Spanning tree would be there for a long, long time. Interesting. Show int PO2. So it seemed to complain that the ports were not compatible, and then it brought them up into an ether channel anyway. Show int port channel 2, fast Ethernet 0/2, fast Ethernet 0/5. Well, show run int fast 0/2, show run int fast 0/5. It seems like it's generating the ether channel even though it shouldn't. Let's clean up the config. Switch port mode dynamic desirable. We'll make it the same on each one. Okay. Now next thing, show int fast Ethernet 0/2. My 5-minute output rate is 40,000 bits per second. Show int fast Ethernet 0/5. My output rate is 16 packets per second, 246, and that's a 5-minute average. It seems like most of my ping, or almost all of my ping, went across fast Ethernet 0/5. Yeah, 9,000 packets input here, whereas on fast Ethernet 0/2, where's the packets input? Oh, a lot more packets input, but it's been up for a long time. Oh, pff. Yeah, it's been up. In fact, I had a span tree loop on it earlier today and haven't rebooted, so 69 million packets input. Okay, in any event, the 5-minute input rate makes it pretty clear that the Ether channel is sending all of the pings, or most of the pings, across fast Ethernet 0/5 except when I unplugged it. And that's true. One of the Ether channel gives you more aggregate bandwidth. So in this case, we have two 100 megabit links. It's giving us 200 megabits of aggregate bandwidth, but there's a problem. And the problem is that for many applications, out of order packets cause bad performance. Now, TCP is a great protocol. TCP will retransmit drop packets or drop segments. TCP will, if you drop a packet, you get it out of order, TCP will sort it all out. But the reality is that if you get packets out of order, your TCP performance will drop dramatically, and just surfing the web it'll be really painful. Downloading files will be really painful. It'll work, it'll get done, but it'll take forever. So out of order packets are bad. So network hardware vendors try to avoid out of order packets. How do they do that? With Ether channels. With each Ether channels, the way they avoid out of order packets is they make sure that any particular stream or flow goes on only one of the two links. So in this case, I was doing a ping, and all of those pings would go on one link and not the other link. Whereas if I did another ping with two different IP addresses, it might go on the it might traverse a different link. So which port you go on depends on a hash algorithm, and the hash algorithm depends on the hardware platform. With primitive switches, the hash algorithm might be MAC address to MAC address. It might be IP address to IP address. You get something modern like a Cat6K, it might hash it based on the IP address and port, assuming it's TCP or UDP, and then the IP address and port. And that way, even if you have two hosts talking to each other, two different TCP sockets might go on two different Ethernet links because the hash algorithm is more complex. So in this case, the hash algorithm for the ping always sent the ping across fast Ethernet 0/5, except when it was down, in which case all the traffic will go over fast Ethernet 0/2. So Ether channel gives you 200 megabits. In this case, the Ether channel will give you 200 megabits of aggregate bandwidth. But the thing to remember is that any particular flow, any particular TCP stream will have at best 100 megabits of throughput anyway. And the same thing is true for gig Ether channels. You have 2 gig links, you Ether channel them together, you have 2 gigs of aggregate bandwidth, but any particular TCP flow will at best get 1 gigabit of bandwidth, because no matter what the hashing algorithm is, a particular TCP flow will always end up in the same bucket. Okay, last thing, let's talk about port aggregation protocol modes. Show run int fast 0/2, show run int fast 0/5. Let's set int conf t. So we have auto channel group 2 mode. Oh, help if I go into interface configuration. Int fast 0/2 channel group 2 mode. Now right now it's set to desirable on both ends. Let's set it to on. Int fast 0/5. So on this side, show run int fast 0/2, show run int fast 0/5. My channel group 2 is mode on, show int PO2, and I'm connected. So my channel group is up, and I'm doing an Ether channel this way. Let's look at the other side. Interesting, I can't ping the other side at all. What's going on? Let's go take a look. Here I am on switch 2. Show int PO1. And note my ether channel is down. I mean, my ether channel is down. Why is my ether channel down? Well, I switched the mode from desirable to on. So the port aggregation protocol modes, on, if you're on, you don't even speak the port aggregation protocol. One side, the other switch 1, the ether channel's still up. On this side, the ether channel's down because it's mode desirable. So I've got a mismatch. Show spanning tree, which might cause some spanning tree problems too. So my ports are not aggregated right now, and in fact, they're both forwarding. Whereas on the other side, they're ether channeled. Ping 10.1.1.7, I'll ping an IP address that does not exist. Show proc CPU. Okay, I don't have a spanning tree loop, which is good. Or I don't have a bridging loop right now, which is good, but my ether channel is all messed up. So the port aggregation protocol modes, we have on, we have desirable, we have auto, we have off. Now if you're on, you become an ether, you don't speak the port aggregation protocol at all. So on to on works, but on to desirable is a mismatch. And that's bad. That means the side that's on will be on, and the side that's desirable, the side that's desirable is talking the port aggregation protocol. It's saying, hey, you want to talk port aggregation protocol with me? And the other side's not responding at all. So the side that's desirable will not form a channel. So now and likewise, on with auto is a mismatch, and on with off is a mismatch. With off, I mean the off side is not forming an ether channel, the on side is forming an ether channel. Let's talk about the desirable. Desirable with desirable forms channel. Desirable with auto forms a channel because the auto is willing to become a channel, and the desirable on the other side says, hey, I'm talking the protocol, I want to become a channel. And the auto is talking the protocol and says, okay, I'll become a channel. Now, auto with auto does not form a channel, but, desirable with off does not form channel. Because the desirable side is saying, I want to become a channel, what do you want? And the off side is not talking. So the desirable side will say, okay, you're not talking, I wanted to become a channel, but I guess I won't. And auto, I'm willing to become a channel if you are. I'm willing to become a channel if you are. And so they just mutually agree not to form a channel. And of course, off and off does not form channel. And auto, off does not form channel. Okay, so you can see it's very similar yet a little bit different than the port aggregation protocol. In this case, when you're on, you don't talk. In port aggregation protocol, when you're on, you don't even talk the protocol. So on is sort of dangerous because the other side might, on, you're going to become an ether channel no matter what, and the other side might not want to become an ether channel, might not become an ether channel, in which case you have mismatch, which is actually dangerous to your net. I prefer desirable. Desirable if you want to form a channel, you set both sides to desirable, and that way they talk the port aggregation protocol to each other. You make sure all your links are linked up properly, and it does some double checking, like making sure that both links from switch A end up on both links on switch B. You're not going to different switches or something like that. Okay? So that is the port aggregation protocol modes, and that concludes our talk on the port aggregation protocol and ether channels.